The moment the wind shifted, everything broke. Laura had been laughing with her son, Ethan, their feet buried in cool sand, the Atlantic stretching wide and blue in front of them. It was supposed to be a simple beach day in Cape Cod, a quiet escape before school started again. One last breath of summer, one last normal memory. Then Ethan went silent. He stopped building the sand wall and stood up too fast, brushing sand from his hands, eyes fixed on something down the shore. Laura followed his gaze without thinking, smiling at first until her chest tightened so suddenly it felt like the air had left her lungs. About 50 yards away, near the waterline, stood Mark, her husband. He was barefoot, wearing the navy shirt she had folded that morning. His sunglasses were pushed up on his head the way he always did when he wanted to look relaxed. Beside him stood a woman Laura had never seen before, younger, long hair pulled back, laughing as Mark leaned closer, his hand resting lightly on her back as if it belonged there. Time slowed, then cracked. For a second, Laura told herself she was wrong. Beaches were crowded. Men looked alike from far away. But then Mark smiled that smile he only used when he felt safe, when he thought no one was watching. Ethan's voice cut through the noise of waves and children shouting, "Mom, that's Dad." Laura didn't answer. She couldn't. Her body stayed still, but inside her thoughts ran fast and wild. Mark had said he was working, last minute. Meeting in Boston, he had kissed her cheek that morning and told her not to wait up. Ethan looked at her face and understood more than she wanted him to. He was 16, old enough to read silence, old enough to feel when something was wrong. His jaw tightened. Who's that woman? Laura swallowed hard. She forced herself to breathe, one slow breath at a time. "I don't know," she said, though the truth was already tearing through her. Mark bent closer to the woman, touched his arm. It wasn't dramatic. No kiss, no loud gesture, just comfort, familiar comfort. The kind that didn't happen by accident. Laura turned away first. She sat back down on the towel, hands shaking, and stared at the ocean as if it could erase what she had seen. The sound of the waves felt too loud. Her heart beat in her ears. Ethan stayed standing. "Mom," he said again, softer now. "You want me to say something?" "No." Laura said quickly, too quickly. "No, sit down." He hesitated, then obeyed, though his eyes kept drifting back. Laura hated that she had brought him into this moment. She hated that he would remember this beach forever. She closed her eyes, and memories rushed in without mercy. Mark, 12 years ago, standing at the end of a small church aisle in Vermont. Mark holding Ethan for the first time, tears in his eyes. Mark promising her they would always tell each other the truth, even when it hurt. Laura had believed him. She had built a life on that belief. The woman's laughter floated on the wind again, light and careless. Laura opened her eyes. Mark hadn't seen them yet. She stood slowly, brushing sand from her legs, her movements. Calm on the outside. Inside, everything was shaking. "Ethan," she said, "I need you to stay here. I'm going to take a walk." "I'm coming," he said. "No." Her voice was firm now. "Please." He searched her face, then nodded. "Okay." Laura walked toward the waterline, each step heavier than the last. She told herself she would turn back, that she didn't need answers right now, that she could protect her son from this. But her feet kept moving. Mark noticed her when she was only a few steps away. At first his face showed confusion, then shock, then something worse, fear. "Laura," he said, stepping back from the woman as if distance could fix this. "What are you?" The woman looked between them, her smile fading. "Mark?" Laura stopped in front of him. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't cry. Her calm scared her more than anger ever could. "You said you were in Boston," Laura said. Mark opened his mouth, then closed it again. "I can explain." The woman's eyes widened. "You're married?" Mark didn't answer her. He looked only at Laura as if she were the only real person left on the beach. Laura nodded slowly, more to herself than to him. Who is she? Mark hesitated. That pause told her everything. This is Jenna, he said. She's a friend. Jenna let out a sharp breath. A friend. She looked at Mark, hurt, flashing across her face. You said you were separated. Laura felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger, not yet. Something deeper, something final. I'm going back to my son, Laura said. You can decide what you want to. Do next. She turned before Mark could reach for her. Behind her, voices rose. Jenna's sharp and wounded. Mark's low and desperate. Laura didn't listen. She walked until her feet touched the edge of the tide, then turned back toward Ethan. He watched. Her approach, reading her posture, her face. Mom, she knelt in front of him, placing her hands on his shoulders. She chose her words carefully, like stepping through broken glass. Dad made a mistake, she said, a serious one. Ethan's eyes darkened. Is he cheating on you? The honesty of the question took her breath away. She nodded once. Ethan looked past her, toward the shore. His shoulders stiffened. I knew something was off. Laura pulled him into a hug. He held her back tighter than she expected. For a moment, she let herself lean into him, drawing strength from the steady beat of his heart. I'm sorry, she whispered. She wasn't sure who she was apologizing to, her son, herself, or the life she thought she had. In silence, Mark didn't follow them. Laura noticed that with a strange sense of relief. She wasn't ready to hear excuses. She wasn't ready to see guilt or regret. She just wanted to leave. The drive back to the rental house felt endless. Ethan stared out the window, jaw set, music playing softly through his headphones. Laura gripped the steering wheel, replaying the scene again and again, searching for signs she had missed. Late nights, short answers. The way Mark had started turning his phone face down. She had told herself it was stress. Work, age, marriage. Settling into routine. At the house, Ethan went straight to his room. Laura stood alone in the kitchen, the quiet pressing in. The smell of salt still clung to her skin. Her phone buzzed. Mark? She let it ring. It buzzed again. Then a message appeared. Please, we need to talk. Laura sat at the table and stared at the screen. 12 years of marriage reduced to one sentence. She thought of the woman's laugh, of Mark's hand on her back, of Ethan standing frozen in the sand. She typed slowly. Not today. She set the phone down and finally let the tears come. Outside, the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in soft orange and pink, as if nothing had changed. But Laura knew the truth. This beach trip had not been the end of summer. It was the beginning of something else entirely. The next morning, Laura woke to the sound of seagulls and the distant crash of waves. But the peace of the ocean couldn't reach her. Her body felt heavy, her mind racing. Last night's revelations clung to her like salt on skin. Impossible to shake. She looked at the clock. Ethan was still asleep. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Today, she decided, would be different. She would not let Mark's betrayal define her. Ethan appeared at the kitchen doorway with his hair sticking up and eyes still blurry from sleep. He yawned, but there was a tension in his posture that Laura recognized immediately. He had been carrying yesterday with him, storing it somewhere deep inside. Morning, he said softly. Morning, she replied, forcing a calm smile. Sleep okay? He nodded, but she could see he wasn't fully relaxed. Mom, we going to talk about him? He asked, his voice low. Laura reached for the coffee pot, pouring 2 cups without looking at him. Not yet. Let's eat first. We need some strength before anything else. Breakfast was quiet, punctuated only by the soft clatter of dishes and the occasional distant scream of a gull. Laura tried to focus on small things. Ethan's laugh at a comic in his phone. The smell of coffee, the sunlight slipping through the blinds, but her mind kept snapping back to the beach. The image of Mark and the woman lingered stubbornly. She felt a mix of anger, disappointment, and an odd sadness she couldn't quite name. After breakfast, Ethan suggested they go for a walk along the boardwalk. "Just us," he said. "I need some fresh air." Laura agreed. The sea breeze did little to calm the storm in her mind, but she knew they had to move forward, even if just a step at a time. As they walked, Ethan's voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "Mom, do you think Dad knew we were there? That we saw everything?" Laura didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed on the horizon. "I don't know," she finally said. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter now. What matters is what we do next." Ethan kicked at the sand near the edge of the boardwalk, sending grains scattering into the wind. "I hate that he lied. I trusted him too." Laura's chest tightened. She wanted to reassure him, to promise him everything would be okay. But she knew life didn't work like that. "I know," she said softly. "I trusted him too. And right now, we just take care of ourselves." They walked in silence for a while, listening to the surf and the distant laughter of other families. And then Ethan said something that made her stop. "Mom, you deserve better." Laura felt a strange warmth in her chest, a mix of pride and heartbreak. Her son, only 16, understood more than some adults she knew. She squeezed his hand gently. "Thank you, Ethan. That means more than you know." The day passed slowly. Laura didn't call Mark. She didn't respond to his texts. Instead, she focused on Ethan, on the small joys of a beach day that hadn't been ruined, not completely. They rented paddleboards, laughing as they fell into the water again and again. They bought ice cream from a tiny shack, letting the sticky sweetness melt over their hands and smiles. And for brief moments, they forgot the betrayal, the lies, the heartbreak waiting for them back at home. But the past has a way of catching up. That evening, Laura was sorting laundry in the small beach house when the phone rang. It was a private number. She hesitated, then answered. "Laura, please, we need to talk." It was Mark. His voice was desperate, almost pleading. Laura took a deep breath. "I'm with Ethan right now. I'm not ready. Please," he said. "Again, I didn't. I made a mistake. I love you. Let me explain." Laura closed her eyes. His words were heavy with regret, and part of her ached to believe them. But the image of him with that woman, the ease, the laughter, the touch, was burned into her mind. "Mark, I need time. I need space. You broke my trust. I can't just go back to what we had." The line went silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, "I'll wait." She hung up, leaning against the wall, letting the silence fill the room. Ethan came in, brushing his hair back, watching her carefully. "Everything okay?" Laura smiled faintly. "Yes, we're okay. I just need to think." Ethan nodded and left her alone. Laura sat by the window, looking out at the sunset, watching the colors spill across the sky. She realized something vital. Life had changed, yes, but she was still standing. She still had her son, and even if the path ahead was uncertain, she could face it. The next morning, Laura decided they would leave the beach earlier than planned. There was no reason to prolong the tension. They packed quickly, sharing quiet smiles and occasional jokes, trying to reclaim the sense of normalcy that had been stolen. As they drove away from the coast, Ethan broke the silence. "Mom, do you think we'll be okay?" Laura reached over, taking his hand. "We will," she said firmly. "It might not be easy, and it might not be what we expected, but we'll be okay. Together." Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Mark. She glanced at it. "I'm sorry. I'll do whatever it takes." She didn't respond. She knew some answers wouldn't come from texts or calls. They would come from actions, from time, from the slow rebuilding of trust, or the acceptance of what could never be repaired. Ethan, leaned against the window, watching the coastline disappear behind them. Laura's heart swelled with gratitude and pain at the same time. Grief for what was lost, but hope for what could still be built by the time they reached their home in New Hampshire. Laura felt a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The beach had been the stage for a revelation that could have destroyed them, but it had also reminded her of what mattered most: love, family, honesty, and the courage to face hard truths. That night, she tucked Ethan into bed, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "We're going to get through this." And for the first time in days, she believed it. But deep down, question lingered in her mind, a quiet, stubborn echo that refused to fade. Could she ever trust Mark again? Tomorrow would bring its own answers, and she would face them step by step, hand in hand with her son. The story wasn't over. The beach had changed everything, but it had also given her clarity. And sometimes clarity is the first step toward healing. The phone buzzed once more. This time, she didn't look at it. She let it rest on the counter, unanswered. For tonight, the world was hers and Ethan's, and that was enough. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of fire and gold, as if promising that even after betrayal and heartbreak, there was still beauty in life and in the bonds that truly mattered.